Welcome to the American History Channel. Subscribe and leave a like so you don't miss any of the upcoming videos like this one.
In the Old West, brothel madams took on stage names that grabbed attention. Titles like Queen of Ireland or Queen of Spain hinted at where they came from and stirred curiosity. That's how they turned identity into a brand, drawing customers chasing specific experiences promised by the fantasy in the name. At the dawn of the 20th century, Goldfield, out in the Nevada desert, became a byword for fortune. In the shadow of the gold fever, streets, businesses, and big ambitions sprang up. When the alarm sounded, firefighters raced across town on a chemical wagon. A water tank, firefighting gear, and horsepower pulling the rescue. Wealth and risk moved forward side by side. In the early 1900s, the horseless carriage changed how people crossed the American West. Gas-powered cars promised speed and range, luring adventurers. But the infrastructure undercut the excitement. Rough roads set hard limits. In Arizona, dry ground and desert thorns forced stops and constant repairs. It wasn't just a place to blow off steam. The Frontier Saloon worked like the town's heartbeat, where almost everything fit. Between a mug and a hot plate, bets, deals, and debates popped up. Newcomers could rent a simple room, find company, or even a little relief for the soul, always within reach of a swinging door. In the Old West, the brothel was part of town. Men looked for encounters, women offered work. Between them, a man decides to tell what he lived through, recording faces, gestures, and promises that stuck with him. Every open door reveals another story, and he keeps going, ready for the next reveal. No sugarcoating, just telling what he saw and felt. In 1867, a wooden boat headed down the Truckee River in Nevada, part of a scientific mission to explore and map the land. 4 men were aboard: the captain, a geologist, a photographer, and the cook. Through rapids, rocks, cold, and hunger, they pushed on. At every bend, they found new views, animals, and plants they documented and named. Wyatt Earp roamed the West as a lawman, moving from town to town and job to job. In Tombstone, alongside his brothers and Doc Holliday, he faced down a gang in a shootout that went down in history. Off the streets, he made a living hunting, trading, guiding, and gambling. With Josie at his side, he crossed deserts, outlasted the years, and turned into a legend later told in books and movies. A 1920 snapshot in Canada freezes 2 women in Alberta, smiling at the camera and dressed like cowboys: hats, shirts, vests, pants, and chaps. On the left, an unnamed figure, maybe from the ranch or the arenas. On the right, Maud Beardsley, a rodeo star who toured the world with Buffalo Bill's renowned traveling show. For Charlie Meadows, living meant setting off into the unknown. With his scout troop, he crossed Arizona, facing the desert's risks and mysteries. Along with the neckerchief around his neck, he had mastery of the reins. He rode with skill and control. Courage, loyalty, and a drive to explore made him an example everyone followed. 2 American cowboys made a name for themselves by turning the spirit of the West into laughs and images. The friendship between them powered the work. Will Rogers, seen on the left in the photo, held audiences with quick quips and sharp commentary. Charles M. Russell gave shape to the land in paintings and sculptures that nailed down scenes of the Wild West. Edmund Richard "Hoot" Gibson, before lighting up westerns, had already logged a lot of miles. Born in Nebraska, he grew up a cowboy, breaking rough horses and competing in rodeos. Years later, he took that skill to circuses and Wild West shows where the rope, the saddle, and his stage presence shaped the artist the movies would celebrate. In 1889, May and Gordon William Lilly took part in the run that opened Oklahoma to settlers. Enchanted, they put down roots there. Gordon, nicknamed Pawnee Bill because of his ties to the Pawnee, decided to tell that story. He created an arena show that toured from town to town and showed audiences the skills of cowboys and native peoples of the West. In Tombstone, Arizona, the story of the Old West takes on a face in John Clum. After the town's incorporation in 1881, he took over as mayor and founded the newspaper The Tombstone Epitaph, still in circulation. Alongside the Earp brothers, who led local law, Clum took on the so-called Cowboys, steering the conflict that defined the town. Frank Dalton, a U.S. deputy marshal, came back exhausted from the Indian Territory. Days of trails, ambushes, and hostile faces were behind him. In Fort Smith, he dismounted in front of the courthouse and delivered 6 men in irons. Getting the job done brought no relief. He knew the next patrol was already waiting and that the law only keeps breathing when someone carries it to the end. No one knew where Eleanor Dumont came from. One day she appeared in Nevada City, speaking with a touch of French, and announced she'd open a casino. Curiosity turned into habit. Locals packed her tables. She played with a steady hand, read her opponents, and, between quiet laughs and precise gestures, won over the clientele and made the saloon her turf. Between 1866 and 1869, Alfred A. Hart captured in stereoscopic images the pioneer train of the Transcontinental Railroad squeezing through a narrow corridor carved in reddish rock at the Royal Gorge. The canyon, about 10 miles long, follows the course of the Arkansas River and shows the monumental effort that tied the country together by rail, from the Atlantic to the Pacific. In 1920 in Los Angeles, Richard Farnsworth was born, the son of an engineer and a homemaker. He grew up around tack and arenas, fascinated by horses and rodeos. In the 1930s, he entered the movies from the back lot. He became an uncredited stuntman, taking on racing scenes and cavalry fights where skill spoke louder than words. In the period shown, the Colt 1860 Army was common and used percussion. When Rollin White's patent expired in 1869, Colt rolled out conversions for metallic cartridges. Among them was the Richards, fitted to the 1860 Army. In the image, a Native American holds a 1860 Army with a Richards conversion and a nickel finish, gleaming bright. At the Denny Livestock Ranch in Lame Deer, Montana, brothers Reuben and Wesley Busenitz worked the cattle and the day-to-day of ranch life. They were part of the Northern Cowboys, folks who keep the West's tradition alive. Hat, bandana, vest, and leather gloves were the daily uniform, protection against the weather and the hazards of the land. There, every task counted. In 1920, a wagon train pulled by 20 mules crossed, slow, dusty, and steady, the Devil's Dance Trail in Death Valley National Park, California. Called the 20-mule team wagon train, it linked the mines to the railroad. It hauled borax, a key mineral for soap and glass, over dry, rocky ground. It was an everyday grind. In 1919, horsewoman Kitty Canutt hit the spotlight by taming the horse Winnemucca in a contest in Rawlins, Wyoming. 3 years earlier, she'd already taken the all-around champion trophy in Pendleton, Oregon. In the rodeos, they called her the Diamond Girl for the diamond she wore on her front tooth. U.S. deputy marshals served under Judge Isaac Parker, the hanging judge. It fell to them to enforce the law in Fort Smith, Arkansas, a place marked by ambushes, gangs, and clashes with native peoples. To get the job done, they used the Winchester 1873, a repeating rifle that let them fire several shots without reloading. It was a job with no guarantees. The Canadian Pacific Railway started in 1881 to connect Canada from end to end with a single line. The journey was tough. Rivers and mountains set limits, blasts and tunnels reshaped the land. Along the way came conflict and social wounds, the resistance of indigenous peoples, and the exploitation of immigrants shaped that crossing. Around Alice, 5 Texas Rangers set up camp with a clear goal. Check the rumors of cattle theft at the King Ranch, a vast and famous Texas spread. Before dawn, among tracks and whispers, they mapped the plan. Follow faint signs, listen to folks who knew too much, and expose who was profiting from the missing stock. Behind the scenes of Born Reckless, 1958, a Western starring Mamie Van Doren, one name didn't make the credits. Ben Johnson, an Oklahoma cowboy and master roper, coached key scenes and made sure they felt real. He wasn't new to it. In 1953, alongside his partner, he took the World Team Roping title, a story that ties the arena and the movies in a single loop of rope. In the publicity photo for Rio Bravo, 1959, Angie Dickinson appears as Feathers alongside John Wayne, Sheriff John T. Chance. The image already sets the stage. Under Howard Hawks, the story follows a sheriff who, with only a few allies, protects the town while a gang keeps up the pressure. Tension and loyalty drive every move.